Hi, good morning. We are Group 3. We'll present book review about globalization and its discontents revisited anti-globalization in the era of Trump. Group 3 consists of me, Fanny, Diego, Irene, Johannes, Oki, and Valentina. So please stay tuned in the video because you will get more knowledge about this.
The victory of Donald Trump as President for United States and UK vote to leave the European Union signals the growing dissatisfaction on globalization at the international level. In Trump's inaugural address, for example, he said it hoped that protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. Trump 2017. Based on the careful analysis on the current global landscape, this book is published as an update and expansion of the stylist's previous book, Globalization and its Discontents, GAID, that played an important role in the debate over globalization. As compared to GIED, which the author explained about the unhappiness with globalization in many developing countries. In this book, the author argued this discontent on globalization result in the arising of new protectionism. Joseph E. Stiglitz is a professor at Columbia University and the winner of the 2001 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics for this contribution on the impact of asymmetric information on economic behavior and institutions. He was chairman of the U.S. Council of Economic Advisors under President Clinton in 1995 to 1997 and former senior vice president and chief economist of the World Bank from 1997 to 2000. His direct involvement in both White House and World Bank provides an opportunity to analyze the issue of globalization and discontent based on his experience as it has been reflected in his previous publication, which is GAID, published in 2002, as well as Making Globalization Work, published in 2007. Okay, for the next content, we'll present to my friend, Bafani. Bafani, the screen is yours.
The main thesis in this book is the globalization, as it has been mentioned, result in discontent among both developing and developed countries due to the rising of inequality, economic crisis, and growth of the powerful multinational corporation. In the introductory chapter, the author summarized his argument that has been presented in GAID as the starting point to look into the dynamics and impact of globalization and the response towards it. The author states that although the focus in GAID is on the developing countries, it is also equally applicable to developed countries. It is because the benefit of the globalization has been oversold, huge distribution on income, wealth and power, deficiencies in the governance of globalization, as it reflects the special interest and ideology of certain minority group and a greater burden on government to offset its adverse effect of the globalization. The author also presented that there are three approaches addressing the discontent with globalization. The first two approaches are doubling down on the Washington Consensus and new protection, while the third approach is fair globalization with shared prosperity. It is clear that in GAID, Making Globalization Work, and this book, the author advocated the third approach as compared to other two, which are not sustainable. Okay, for the next content, we present to my friend Bairen. Bairen, the screen is yours.
The author dedicated two chapters explaining the failure of globalization as the consequences of overselling of globalizations in trade and other dimensions due to global integrations of financial markets and the development of multinational corporations. In regards to trade, the author emphasized that the objective of the trade policy is not to increase jobs as compared to what has been understood and propagated by the politicians, but it aims to increase standards of living by increasing productivity. In his views, the author observed that most of this content with globalizations is focusing on trade agreements which highly favor the multinational corporations. Besides that, the discontent on globalizations has also arisen from other aspects like foreign direct investment, short-term capital flow, investment agreement, the avoidance of tax by the corporations, intellectual property right, and immigrations. The author also criticized the advocates of globalizations which are highly reliant on the logic of market based on the assumption of perfect information and competition. As such, they ignore the problem of the imperfect risk and competition, long-run effect of the dynamic comparative advantages, and the manipulations of the exchange rate set by the central bank rather than the market forces. Okay, for the next content, we'll present to my friend Bavalen. Bavalen, the screen is yours.
The failure of the way globalization has been managed resulted in increasing level of inequality, less opportunity, and financial struggle for the middle class, which led to growth of the new protectionism. In this book, Stiglitz concentrated on Trump as an important variable to analyze the rising era of the new protectionism that changed the current landscape of globalization discourse. Stiglitz argued that the new protectionism will likely to fail based on history and the current environment, especially in the United States. In contrast to Trump's idea to increase the employment in the manufacturing, the current economy is in the transition period from manufacturing to the services sector. Besides that, the United States is no longer a solo dominant power like a few decades ago. The idea of rapid globalization through new protectionism will disrupt the global supply chain that leads to job destruction, worsen trade deficit, and reduce the standard of living due to distortion in trade. Moreover, the idea will not be feasible because the power of the president is limited by the Congress and the membership of the United States in the World Trade Organization or WTO. Stiglitz stated that economy only works because of the trust. Without trust, the market economy system would break down. Given this current scenario, Stiglitz proposed diversification of import and export to redo the global landscape without the United States and to grow more through internal demand. Okay, for the next content, we will be presented by my friend Pajo. The screen is yours.
The author is consistent in his main argument. The recent globalization has not worked out well has to do with governance and how the rules of the game are set and enforced. Therefore, the author outlined 10 principles of a reforms globalization to provide some guide its shipping policy in the future, which are globalization as a mean, global rules for cross-border externality. Global action as the community becomes globally interdependent. Good governance, government and civil society as a part of the system regulating and tempering globalization. The difference of global consequence between large and small economies, different domestic policy as there's no one-size-fits-all policy, assistance to the loser due to the change imposed by globalization, consideration on social dimension of globalization, and the evaluation of economic consequence of reform using models that reflect economic realities. In addition, the author also outlined the way forward that need to be addressed, which are reducing inequality in market income, improving equality after tax distribution of income, helping restructure the economy, providing social protection, and maintaining full employment. The author concluded that with the right domestic policy, focusing on shared prosperity, globalization can lead to the kind of sustainable and equitable development to which this country aspires. Okay, for the next content, we'll present to my friend Mbak Oki. The screen is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Oki. This book undoubtedly explicitly explains the importance of justice and good governance to address the issue of globalization. From the perspective of Islamic economist Chapra in 2001, for instance, recount that the paradigm of new global economy lacks the commitment to justice. hence creates the resistance to globalization. However, the Muslim countries should support globalization as it provides opportunity for the development. On the other hand, Alam Khoudhouri, 1996, argued that globalization as a neo-mercantilist regime which has been carried out in an Eurocentric framework. Therefore, he philosophically divined that Islamic globalization is a unique process of interaction and integration among all kinds of agents and systems of thought institutions and the socio-scientific order by means of unification principle. Based on this fundamental, he further explained the importance of applying the Shuratic process or grassroots democratic linkage to globalization through trade and institutionalism. Overall, this book invites the reader to understand the global landscape of today's world by looking at the dynamic changes within the globalization and the response toward it. The strength of the author in expressing his view in this book is his ability to discuss not only the discontents of the globalization, but provide options and ways to address the problem of globalization and its aspects, and the way it has been managed indicates. Such a diverse way in addressing the problem is reflected in his very careful and detailed analysis based on his experience in the academic and policy making. That's all the book review. Thank you, Pak Jo.
So that's all from our group about book review of globalizations and its discontent revisited, anti-globalizations in the era of Trump. Thank you.